SMART goals and objectives are often considered to be the gold standard. They're best practice in performance reviews, they're part of every management handbook, they're in every leadership course. But a SMART objective does not guarantee a successful outcome. In many organisations, SMART tends to be used for personal development planning, or setting those big long-term goals. In some cases, they may only be used once a year as part of the annual review process. Most of those fail long before the year's over. There are a number of reasons for this, and in this video we'll look at 5 of them. First, and this could be due to when SMART objectives are used, SMART is a clarity tool, not a compliance tool. When it becomes a requirement of the personal development planning and review process, it feels like paperwork. It tends to get filed away and forgotten about. And as we alluded to in a previous video, when it's not used regularly as part of day-to-day tasking, it's not used frequently enough to be automatic. SMART is much more effective when it's used so often that it becomes second nature. That links to our second reason for why SMART objectives fail. It's not a knowledge problem, people not remembering what the acronym stands for. It's a behaviour problem. The process of setting objectives is hard for many people. It's certainly time-consuming, so we put it off. Think about your work environment. Is it busy? Are people wearing multiple hats, doing more than just their job? Does it often feel like focus is shifting? Urgent jobs suddenly appear, another team shouts louder, senior leaders change priorities. Work can be a pressured environment. And when the pressure's on, it's human nature to revert to default behaviours of firefighting, reacting, protecting your bit. Long-term objectives get abandoned or deprioritised so that they quietly die. Alternatively, to save time and give the impression of being a good team player, everybody nods along during the meeting to timelines that they don't really believe in, as pushing back would take too long. And so SMART objectives get created in a vacuum of optimism. It's less setting targets and more wishful thinking. It's agreement bias. In these instances, SMART goals and objectives are rarely robust enough to succeed when real life gets involved. When objectives are agreed in an overly optimistic way, we fail to ask about what might go wrong, where the bottlenecks are, or what the single points of failure might be. If reason number 2 is a behaviour problem, then it's directly linked to number 3. Behaviours are what we can see. They're greatly influenced by how we think and feel beneath the surface, and driven by our emotional responses. So, number 3 is a big one. SMART sounds rational and logical, but it doesn't take into account emotion. When you're having a conversation to set goals and objectives, if the other person is already feeling anxious about their workload, unsure about capacity, then it's likely that your words are not really landing. Their inner doubting voice is drowning you out. This is also about psychological safety. If someone feels exposed, blamed, judged, or micromanaged, they're likely to protect themselves instead of owning the goal. This can show up as minimal effort, vague updates, partial delivery, or trying to quietly pass responsibility somewhere else. It's particularly true when it comes to the achievability of the goal or objective. People commit to what feels doable, not what looks doable on paper. If they're quietly skeptical about how realistic it is, then emotion will show up later as procrastination, delays, friction, or disengagement. Of course, that can go the other way. The 4th reason that SMART objectives fail is that to ensure people are committed to objectives that feel attainable, we don't stretch them too far. In some organisations, achievable secretly means just make sure we can tick the box. But by setting the standard of output where you already are, there's little growth. It kills innovation. It literally becomes a safe tick box exercise of predictable mediocrity. And in this way, even if the agreed objective is delivered, it has failed to deliver impact in the form of improvement. The final reason that SMART objectives fail is that the manager who sets it quickly moves on to their next problem without providing guidance, follow-up, or support. When managers adopt this kind of fire and forget approach, the conversations around setting goals and objectives are often poor. We don't talk about the risks and how we might deal with them. We don't talk about the stuff that's under the surface, those feelings and emotional responses that might be preventing the person from challenging our assumptions. We don't agree to regular reviews, to check in on progress and spot early warning signs of a problem. When asked, managers will often say they don't like to micromanage. They have good people who can get on and do their jobs. They call it autonomy. Another word you can use is neglect. Setting objectives without a clear plan for delivery, follow-up and support is likely to result in blind spots, disengagement and frustration. This is probably why somebody introduced SMARTER, which adds evaluated and reviewed to the acronym. But you don't need more words to remember. You need to have a proper conversation about the objective itself and how it will be delivered. As Doran put it in his original paper, it is the combination of the objective and its action plan that is really important. Taking the time to talk about the objective and agreeing it together overcomes these common pitfalls. Real conversations lead to better goals and objectives that deliver better outcomes.